I don't think that there's any better sports town in America than Detroit. Woodward Avenue, all 4 sports teams play on the same block. And you know what's also number one? Some one-of-ones that the Detroit Tigers have the courtesy of employing, and that's Casey Mize, Spencer Torkelson.
Hey, as we all know, Spencer Torkelson and Casey Mize have not lived up to their draft status coming into this year. That's obvious. Everybody would agree with it. But this season, at least so far, in a very small sample size, particularly for Casey Mize, who only made 1 start, the 1-1s are playing like 1-1s. They're not just being serviceable. They're not just being MLB players. They're both playing great. And with Spencer Torkelson, I understand that lately, I think he's 1 for his last 12. But over the totality of the first 6 games, he has a batting average over 300 and an OPS of 990.
Jeez.
We would have given anything for that to start the year. And we all know how he started the season very, very strong, particularly on the opening day game against the Dodgers, not swinging at any bad pitches and hammering the mistake. I love his approach at the plate. You're seeing that patience that he showed more in the minor leagues and at Arizona State. I understand he's struggled a little bit in the past couple of games in particular, but he looks different. He doesn't look lost like he did at the beginning of last year when he ended up getting sent down. Love to see Spencer Torkelson actually playing like a 1-1, and I hope that he can keep this up throughout the year. And the default thing with all of this is that you're facing White Sox pitching at this series, so look for Spencer Torkelson to you know what? I'm calling for 1 torque bomb in this series. Just 1. And that's not a crazy prediction, by the way. 1 torque bomb.
And you know what? The way he's saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if there were 2 out of torque. And, you know, you're saying a lot of good things that about torque that we also saw some remnants of towards the second half of last season.
Sure.
And he played an instrumental role in this Detroit Tigers team, being one of the best teams, if not the best team in all of baseball the last 40 games of the season. And I remember, KG, there was a point in time where you were like, you know what? I think we're done with torque.
Yeah.
But after that run, you were like, you know what? I'm willing to see what's happening, but he got to make something happen. And just like Parker Meadows when he went down to Toledo and came back and it just looked like everything was figured out mentally, Spencer Torkelson has looked at like that, not just this season, but going back to last year, he looked like it was a little different approach at the plate. This year, he looks confident in his approach at the plate. Not like he's trying to figure things out anymore.
Yeah.
As if he has everything figured out. And you hope that it continues because the Detroit Tigers are going to absolutely need that, not just for now while they're trying to tread the injury waters, but even when they do get healthy, and we saw that last year.
Yeah, and let's be clear, it wasn't just me or, you know, some of us saying that. The Tigers went out there in the media and kind of put pressure on Spencer Torkelson. They needed him to perform. And listen, we all know that, you know, he came back, you know, from AAA last year. And, you know, he struggled a little bit, but he was able to come on at the end of the year. He contributed, but in the playoffs, he kind of tailed off.
Yeah.
So, but this year, he seems to have made a lot of changes. He seems to have humbled himself in a lot of ways, worked on his stance, you know, just some of his approaches at the plate. And you can see it. Like, it's a clear change that he's made, and it's working for him. And I love how people bring up the 0-12. The man was on a 5-game hit streak. So, listen, you're not going to go out there every single game and get a knock or a homer or whatever, but as long as he can just keep that confident approach at the plate, that's what you want to see, because more times than not, he'll be able to put some balls in play.
Hey, speaking of which, Neil Rule is in the chat.
God.
Shout out Neil. He's going to be here 11-1.
Neil
Big
starting
D
early,
energy.
huh?
Torkelson, 1 for 12 with 6 Ks in his last 3 games. Is he back? So even better than back. And as KG said, in the totality of 6 games, his OPS is 990.
Yeah,
you would take that 100 times out of 100. At this point, as KG was saying, what do you want him to do? Hit 500 with a 1,300 OPS in the first 6 games? Spencer Torkelson's been fine. And I will admit, I was somebody who did not expect much from him. I was about ready to, you know, throw some dirt on his Tigers grave. But at least in these first 6 games, he has showed out, and he's been the 1-1 that we really are going to need him to be if the Tigers are going to continue to tread water with all of the injuries. And just, I like what I see at the plate because the numbers tell you that it's different, but your eyes also tell you that it's different. He is a more confident hitter, I think, right now than he's really ever been.
And that's what makes this one for his last 12 a little bit, that to me makes it a little bit different. I'm looking forward to seeing what Spencer Torkelson and and this Tigers team is going to be from a standpoint of resiliency. Can they bounce back? Is he going to have an opportunity to go and say, you know what, I'm not shaking mentally? Because that's what's kept Spencer Torkelson down his entire career. When you go into a slump, is it inception where you try to get out, but now you find yourself another layer deeper? But with how he's looked at the plate this year, I expect him to be able to bounce back from this because you're right. Baseball is a very, very, very fickle sport. And you'll go through some cold streaks. We've seen some of the best players in Tigers uniforms do this. So with Torkelson, we know that the foundation is there. Obviously, being a #1 draft pick, we know that the skill set, the tools are there. And the one thing that all of us has wondered is he just not a player where it's translating to the big leagues, or is it a situation where he just has to get his mind right? And that's where, if it is more mental than what I believe to be, I believe it's more mental than skill. That's why I'm confident in him. Players progress. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for a player to figure it out, but this is that time where Torque is going to have to really, really bear down, block out the noise, and continue to be, over the last stretch of almost 50 games now, 45, 50 games, one of the more positive Detroit Tigers.
Absolutely. And speaking of 1-1s, I got to ask you this, KG. Has Casey Mize' splitter ever looked better than in that last start?
It has not. You ain't seen that boy look like that since he came into the league, man. No, it's good to see Casey Mize, get back on that bandwagon. And y'all know, like, last year, I was accepting of anything that he gave us. I was just like, let's give him the year. Let's let him figure it out. He's battled a lot of injuries, hasn't really had the repetition to go in there and be a consistent pitcher in this league. But ever since the start of this spring training, man, he's come out and he looks like he has a plan. He's executing his pitches, and it's not just the splitter. His fastball look good, slider look good. Most of the pitches in his repertoire seem to be pretty spot on right now. And we all know that he has the stuff. That was never in question with him. It was just the durability. Could he stay healthy? And I think going forward, we will see a better Casey Mize.
No, let's be honest. Health has always been the biggest issue when it comes to Casey Mize. He had a Tommy John and then an injury after that, which made his recovery process even longer. And then last year, on some sort of cosmic terrible luck, he caught a pop fly and ended up on the 60-day IL. And that's why when there's usually a high pop-up, you don't want pitchers fielding it. Like, any corner infielder or catcher will usually call the pitcher off, and, hey, that's probably why. But Casey Mize, the fact that he's healthy, you're seeing, and this is what I alluded to with Spencer Torkelson that I'm going to allude to even more with Casey Mize. It's not just that he went out there and looked serviceable. It's not that he just went out there and gave you 5 innings of a pretty good ball. He went out there and gave you 5 2/3 of 1-hit, 0-run baseball.
Yes.
He not only looked good, he looked like a 1-1. He looked like he has that electric stuff that the Tigers saw when they drafted him #1 overall, and he was hitting his spots. He had great command. It was just a beautiful thing to watch. He looked like an ace out there, and I know I'm probably going a little bit too far with that. We need to see him do it more consistently, but Casey Mize, he's just so talented and got so much in his repertoire. And if he can be a guy who gives you, I called for maybe an ERA under 4. Even if it's 3.80, you would take that 100 times out of 100. But what if he can be even better than that? I hope that last start is indicative of more of what he'll be throughout the season.
Yeah, and that's the real interesting and tantalizing part with these Detroit Tigers. You're talking about a team that came off of a playoff run. You're talking about a team that A.J. Hinch, he's instilled a different level of confidence in these players. Some of these guys are just looking confident, both pitchers, batters, and I do believe that that's going to play a big dividends for this Tigers team. They know that they're winners. They know that they have an opportunity to battle with the top of the AL Central because they took them to 7 games last year, and that's where when you do have a pitcher like a Casey Mize, when you're talking about this team trying to do more than just tread water, especially if they have aspirations of going further and accomplishing more than they did last year, that's where Casey Mize, being this good, gives you an opportunity, honestly, to win a whole lot more games than just treading 500. They're not playing the Dodgers every single game.
Oh, no, absolutely not. In fact, they probably played the hardest series that they'll play all year to start the season, and that's certainly encouraging. Certainly this one that they're about to play is going to be easier, but Crazy Clown in the chat, it's Casey's second year back from Tommy John, and last year was a freak accident. He has Cy Young Award in him.
He got the type of stuff to get that.
Right. No, I understand. I understand.
Right, let him live.
That was from Crazy Clown and not me. And obviously, I'm not willing to say Cy Young at this point. But If every single start he has I'm kidding. That's obviously not going to happen. But he's got the stuff. He's got the command. Javi's
damn right he is.
Spencer Raxter, Javi's hitting 300. He is hitting 300, 3 for 10, right? 3
Yeah.
for 10 on the season.
Wow, shout
Shout
out.
out.
Is he? Hey, Javi, watch KG.
He's
is
back.
Is he back?
He's back.
Is
Praise
Neil-
Javier.
Is Neil
Oh,
still in the chat?
Think about this, guys. Javi Baez, 300 average. Spencer Torkelson, 990 OPS. Casey Mize, ERA of 0.00.
It's a dream season.
Dream season.
Well,
2-4.
that's what I'm
Dream
saying. I
season.
feel like you can lean into the, a little bit more of the belief in these players because you're not talking about, lower drafted, lower expected players. You're talking players that came in with some higher expectations. And so to see them starting to get it right now, I do believe in that a little bit more. Obviously, like we keep saying with baseball, it's something that you have to see continue, but out of what I saw to Spencer Torkelson last year, out of what we know with Casey Mize, and it largely being, can you stay healthy to better aid in the development of a pitcher with the stuff that he has? That's where I am confident in these players as long as they're out there on the field.
Well, speaking of players that came in with higher expectations than the ones that we just mentioned, Tigers had 2 All-Stars last year, and so far when it comes to both of those players, it's been